in any
What kind of
what kind of
approaches?
educational support groups primarily. We know that children who live in these high-stress environments actually do much better in educational support groups than in any kind of individual therapy, because working with other children, learning with other children, playing games that teach them messages that they need to hear with other children helps them to diminish the feeling of feeling isolated, which you're referring to. It helps to give them permission to break the secrets that the family has kept them in, helps them to understand that it's not their fault, which is a crucial message, because children living in these families try very, very hard to try and cover up, fix it, and then they feel like failures. And so we've created, with SAMHSA's help, this wonderful tool that can be used in treatment programs. It can be used in schools and student assistance programs. It can be used in churches, in children's educational programs, and is being used. There's over 60,000 of them around the country. It's a marvelous tool, but we wouldn't have the tool if the recognition hadn't come from SAMHSA and then from people like Fran, who were, at that point, were out in the field and realizing we were missing a big piece of prevention here by not educating and supporting these kids and training adults to do it.
How, Naksham, let's go back. How important is it for you to have auxiliary services to work with these families?
It's absolutely vital. What we're finding with, again, back to this Denver Effect program that we're doing, is one of our partners in the program is the Denver Probation Department. And so many of our clients going through the child welfare system also have other criminal offenses. Like a client I once had said, when she relapsed, she broke out in felonies. And it just kind of goes along with the use. And so they have a lot of criminal things going on, and oftentimes they won't show up for a hearing in the child welfare case because they'll get arrested. The deputies will take them away because they've got an outstanding warrant. So this person is helping these people with the criminal issues kind of get those figured out. She'll go and explain to the judge that they got they're getting their lives together, and to give them a chance and say, okay, we won't throw you in jail right now. So that's been very helpful.
Well, when we come back, I want to be able to dive a little bit more into that justice system, because I think there's so many things that are exciting that are going on. We'll be right back.
Our recovery-oriented systems of care model argues for the appropriate assessment of a person before you embark on allocating a range of services. We acknowledge that there are many pathways to recovery, and not everyone needs the same menu of services. And that model becomes very important when you're addressing the issue of, okay, how do we mobilize social services as a part of that? The question from a case management point of view or services advocate point of view is, are those services available in the community, and how do we reduce the barriers to an individual having access to those services?
I used methamphetamine for 21 years. It was almost premeditated suicide. The turning point for me was that when I was in residential treatment, I got the education on, first of all, I needed to know why I was using, you know, and so that was identified, and then it was identified where, you know, I didn't have to live my life like that, and I had no clue that I didn't have to live like that, and so once I internalized that, that's when it started to change, you know. Every day got better, even when circumstances would come up. Every day was getting better. And I hadn't felt that in so long. You know, I was spiritually bankrupt. You know, my morals and values that my parents taught me had just went out the window. My maternal instinct started coming back that I had lost in addiction, you know, because you lose that. You lose everything. And so those very things started coming back.
When you have a drug or alcohol problem, your whole world stops making sense. You can get help for yourself or a loved one and make sense of life again. for information, treatment referral, and most importantly, help. Call 1-800-662-HELP.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
They tell me I was there, but I don't remember. I don't know where I really was. I do not know what I had for breakfast. I do not know who won the game. I don't recognize this man.
If you or someone you know is struggling with a drug or alcohol problem, there is a solution. Recovery. Call 1-800-662-HELP for information and for hope.
Through treatment, my life's a whole lot brighter now.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Fran, it's so nice to have you with us today.
Thank you, Yvette. I'm happy to be here.
A lot of people say that by providing addiction treatment services to caretakers and to parents, that in a way is a sort of prevention. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a prevention on many levels. It's a prevention first and foremost of breaking the cycle of addiction in a family, because 1 in 4 young people who live in a home where there is addiction, if addiction is not addressed and someone doesn't attend treatment and live a life of recovery, they have a 1 in 4 chance of having an addiction themselves. So that's our first and foremost issue. Secondly, we help, it allows us to go in and help the other parent, the supportive parent, if it's a parent situation, so they become better parents, so that the kids grow up healthier, happier, and more well-adjusted. So there's definitely a really big asset for people to go in, parents in particular, and caretakers, to be in treatment as early as possible.
And I suspect that that bears the same amount of attention if the crisis would be, you know, for example, in the Southwest, there was a tremendous problem with cheese heroin, you know, and communities were suffering. The kids were really being affected, particularly the younger population, and the process would be pretty much the same.
Right. What's so great about prevention right now is that we have science to help us intervene on a specific problem and have programs that actually will help to either reduce or eliminate the problem unto itself. I can't speak enough about education. Education of the problem and developing a public awareness and support of the problem also helps at a community level, because then you have everybody in school, in a place of worship, and the place where people work, or the place where people just plain hang out, are all saying the same messaging, understand all the facts, and we're working more in a community that's supportive of health and wellness.
Thank you, Fran.
You're welcome.
I want to continue a little bit longer on the justice system, Fran, because I think it's so important for people to understand that they are so much more engaged now in referring families and diverting families from going into incarceration, and really addressing their addiction issues, whether it be alcohol or drugs. Is that correct?
That's correct. And part of the assistance there is our relationship with justice and the courts, particularly around all the drug courts. And we have drug courts, we have family drug courts, and in some states we actually have youth drug courts, which do a high-level intervention early on and can divert a child or an adult into treatment services. Or if they don't need treatment services and it's more of a problem, they'll refer them to an intervention or a prevention program depending upon the situation. And then we try to wrap the family with programs that are based in evidence to show that they can work with families that are in drug courts or in treatment, and then do the kind of work to support the young people that are in the schools, the spouse that are dealing with trying to live alone and juggle all the responsibilities. So we've come a long way with helping educate our court systems, our family systems, and our school systems all at the same time.
Yes.
And I think that one of the beauties of that, to continue what Fran is saying, is that if we have, for example, in a school system, a viable student assistance program, then the local courts, whether they're the courts where kids just have been picked up for DUI or been picked up for minors in possession, if there's a student assistance program cooperating with the courts,